Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Scottish Property Podcast. My name is Stephen Clark and I'm joined as always with Nick Ponty. How are you, Nick?
I'm all good, yes. Excited for this week's guest.
So this week we've got Luke Hickie from Luke's Property. So Luke's based down in London, but he invests in South Wales. Really nice guy. I like chatting with people like this, and this is what I love about the podcast is you get a guy like Luke who, didn't get any qualifications in school, wanted to be a professional footballer, a bit of a lad. We can relate to it. And he didn't quite find his way, but you don't need to be academically qualified or have a high-flying corporate career or make a lot of money to be successful in property. And that's what he's doing now. He's built up a good rent-to-rent portfolio, and he's now building up a own portfolio using the kind of BRRR strategy as well.
Yeah, and he's doing a bit of sourcing as well. So we go into all that stuff, what he's up to in his business, but we also talk a lot about business mindset, routines that he does, people he listens to. If you're starting out in business, this is a really good one to listen to. Social media and marketing we go into quite a lot as well. He's a fellow TikToker, so I've challenged him to a dancing duet with me, so we'll see if that one comes off. But I really enjoy the chat. I think he's a really just down-to-earth, likeable guy, no airs or graces. So just hope you enjoy this interview with Luke's Properties. Luke Hickie, welcome to the Scottish Property Podcast, otherwise known as Luke's Properties. I've seen you pop up on my TikTok, mate. You're a bit TikTok famous. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Yourself?
All good, mate. Yeah.
Luke, so you don't do the dances, do you, as well, Luke, do you?
No, I try not to dance. I leave that for the younger chaps. I'm 30 plus now, so I try and
leave. Yeah, mate, next 40, he still fucking dances.
I mean, you got to do what you got to do,
Was it one of your videos that I saw? It was really engaging, actually. I'm pretty sure this was you. You did it was the glasses of water.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool, man. That was really good. I mean, that had me hooked. I thought that's a really great way of explaining it. Just explain to listeners what we're talking about there, because
I mean, just literally, I think people complicate property sometimes, and they see it as all these words can sort of confuse them sometimes. So a lot of the social media stuff is just me brain dumping, and just getting things out that I see the way I see it in my head, basically, and sort of putting it into video format or text format, whatever.
Yeah, no, it was great because I was I've never seen anybody explain, just leveraging and how property works in that way, and it was just really simple. And I just think that's what's great about TikTok, isn't it? Because there's so many creative people on there, and it's just finding different ways of explaining it.
It's a great way of marketing your business and getting what's in your head out there, basically. Short little clips. They seem to get sent around everywhere, and TikTok especially has got a big reach at the moment compared to the other platforms. A lot of organic content can push. You get quite a big push on there, as opposed to Instagram, where it's a little bit more formatted, a little bit more structured on Instagram. TikTok's a little bit more rough around the edges. They push that content, it seems. So that's why I quite like TikTok. You'll see me on there a lot more than Instagram quite often, because you get more of a reach.
It seems to be the ever-evolving kind of story of social media. We were kind of chatting about this before, Nick. Facebook's kind of a bit dead in the water for I mean, it's got its uses, and it'll have its certain demographics and audience. And then Instagram kind of the last 10 years, and that just seems to be getting completely replaced by TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, I think Instagram will still be here to stay, but I just think that there's always going to be a new one, isn't there? And as an entrepreneur, you want to always adjust. You're never going to stay the same. So you need to be willing to go with the tide, basically, and learn the new platforms, as tedious as it can be sometimes,
Absolutely. I downloaded TikTok last week for the first time. I still haven't done anything about it, I'm almost there.
Yeah, it's just, you get a new platform, all the buttons are different. It's crazy, but you just have to put the time in and, learn the basics, or maybe call in some help. Get outside, call the missus along, or any friends that you've got, and just get them to show you how. The younger generation,
I'll call Nick along for the tips on the dad dancing. So sorry for diversifying there. Look, let's start by telling the listeners a bit about your background and how you kind of got started in property, then, right?
Yeah, sure. So I got started in property around 4 years ago now. My entry level into property was rent to rent. So you guys are probably familiar with that strategy, but for anyone who's who's not, who's listening, that's when you rent a property from a landlord over a fixed term. Quite often you'll spend a little bit of money doing it up, not too much money, as it's not your asset. And then you will re-rent the rooms out basically to your tenants for a premium. And the margin in between is your profit as a business. So that's how we started.
It's a nice low entry point, isn't it, into property? Not a huge amount of capital required.
Exactly. And for me, being in London, there wasn't really much I could get for the amount of capital that I had saved, you know. I always like
to know like what people did before. So even before you did the rent to rent, what did you do before that?
Before that, if we go, depends how long you've got, you know, but if we go way back, my first sort of dream as a young man was being a professional footballer. So sort of 16 to 23, I was still sort of chasing that dream. Started to filter down into the non-league sort of scenario, and then by 24 realized it's not really going to work out for me. Still very ambitious at that point, but to be honest, it was a bit of a lull in my life between 24 to, I'd say 27, 28.
What age are you now?
I'm 33 now.
33, yeah.
Yeah. So from sort of 24 to 28, it was a difficult time. I didn't really have much direction, you know, but I still wanted to succeed in something. So yeah, I had to sort of dust myself down and figure out a way to get by in between. You know, I've always been quite good at buying and selling. You know, I've always used eBay and things like this to get stuff for cheap and sell it. I've always understood, you know, to buy stuff, whatever it is, and try and sell it for more. I've always done the odd little job here and there. I've always had a van, so I've always done like removals or anything I can do just to tick over. But I've never really held down a job like full time. It's never really been my focus. It's never really sat well with me. I'm terrible at being told what to do, you know.
I was talking about this with Stephen recently, and I was like, maybe not you, Steve, maybe somebody else, but I was saying, imagine you had to go back to working for somebody like now that we kind of like, we're just like in charge of your own diary. Basically, if you want to do like, I mean, we've got snow up here in Scotland at the moment. I was like, maybe I'll go up this week, but I'll only go up if it's like, you know, snowboarding, if it's like blue skies and stuff like that. And if I want to, I can make that decision. I don't need to go into work, and I can go and go snowboarding. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
it's about having that choice, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's what property can provide you, is that bit of that freedom, that life freedom to make the choice to kind of live life on your terms, to do what you want to do rather than being chained to a desk, chained to a 9 to 5 for fucking your full existence.
Yeah, I mean, you know, different people suit different roles in life. You know, it's not for everyone. Entrepreneurship, I think that's it can be a bit of a misconception sometimes where people think it might be easy. You know, it's very difficult, but the overall long-term reward is having your own time and your freedom. And if that's important to you, then you've got to be willing to go through the storm, basically.
What does your business look like now then, Luke?
So now the business looks like we've got a rent-to-rent portfolio. Not huge portfolio, I'd say around 18 properties that we manage. We had more when we first started, but we started in year 2, we started to take on quality over quantity. So we gave a few back. Landlords that I weren't really, it's difficult, isn't it? Because you need to have that rapport with the landlord where you want to work for them and you want to provide a good service. And sometimes with landlords, they can be, some people don't want to spend any money on their property, or they can be difficult to get hold of. And in the beginning, I was just sort of giving over 2 months rent to any landlord with a HMO, basically. In South Wales, I forgot to mention that. That's where I actually invest. That's where my business is based. And I'm in London at the moment. So I built a business from London, basically. My father lives in Wales, in Newport, South Wales. So that's the link for me to go there. And yeah, I mean, now we've got the rent-to-rent business that's evolved into a property management company that does single lets as well. And then we've got a source inside of the business as well. And
do you source rent-to-rent properties for other clients, or is it?
We don't source rent-to-rents, no. We source like buy-to-lets for people. And
you're talking my language now, mate. You're talking my language.
I love buy-to-let, you know. The day job is rent-to-rent and it's HMO management. it can be a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of tenants. There's a lot of administration. So we've got enough on that side. In terms of what I'm buying for myself and what I will find for other investors, it's just straightforward buy-to-lets, basically single let. We might do the odd occasional service accommodation with them.
Using the BRRR kind of strategy.
Yeah, BRR or just a traditional mortgage, you know.
Yeah.
In our area where we invest, you can buy a house for 80 grand. You can put down 20 grand, roughly 25 all in with your fees, and still get back sort of £600, £650 a month gross rent.
So what cities are you operating in there? South Wales? What cities?
Yeah, so Newport is like the base. That's where the portfolio is based of rent to rents, and then we buy to lets like 20-mile radius of there. So up in the valleys, you know, a little bit cheaper. Newport is still good for investment, but you're going to be a little bit more.
There seems to be quite a lot of people kind of flocking up to Wales. I see a lot on a lot of people's social media and that, you know, like London investors and that going up there or north, or seems to be.
It's the entry level, isn't it? It's people can realistically save, you know, 20 grand over the course of their working career, whereas in London that isn't going to get you very far. You know, if you look a little bit outside your comfort zone, you can actually get on the ladder and start to build. As you guys know, it's your time in the market, isn't it, rather than your actual time in the market. It's how long you're in the market for. So the earlier you can get in, the better. So if you've got to make sacrifices and drive a couple hours to get involved, then so be it, you know.
And was that your path then, building the rent-to-rent portfolio on the side to give you the kind of capital to kind of invest in your own?
I mean, initially that was, you know, we didn't have a long-term plan. It was just get into property, learn the ropes, start managing these properties and go from there. But as we started to scale up, and you know, we haven't got a huge business, but it's substantial. We needed to do something with the profits, you know, like I didn't want to just spend the money. I needed to put the money back into something. So that's where the sort of 2-year mark came, and we started to think, well, shall we buy HMOs? Shall we try and buy some commercial stuff? We decided to just stick with traditional buy-to-let to start, and maybe in the future we can go on to other stuff. But
I think a lot of people turn their nose up at you know, vanilla buy-to-lets, but
they do, yeah.
The foundation, like you just can't go wrong with a single unit, single family home. There's always a supply and demand for them.
They're always going to be in demand, aren't they?
Yeah.
And if you wanted to get more cash flow, you could look at creative strategies like nightly rents, weekly rents. But for us, we feel like we're doing okay with the rent to rent stuff. So we have our sort of cash flow in the strategy, which is like the fast pounds. And then we put the fast pounds into the slow compounding pounds, which is the buy to let stuff.
Build up that net worth, build up the asset column.
Build up that, get some capital appreciation. As I said, hopefully go into some bigger stuff in the future. We have been looking at like some sort of commercial to residential conversions and things like that. But as I said before, at the minute, it's everything's pretty calm now with the rent to rent stuff. And it wasn't like that in the beginning. It was quite frantic. So
talk a little bit about those challenges, mate. What sort of things were you facing when you?
Just lots of different characters, lots of personalities, lots of moving parts. I think what allowed us to scale quite quickly, that's been a bit of a saving grace for us, is a lot of people do rent to rent and they try and do like individuals. So they try and build like a house share where you have to sort of nurture people and make them get along. And you still get phone calls about who's nicked the milk and the eggs and stuff like that. But what we found is we started to target groups of contractors. So like our first deal, we took the HMO on from an estate agent, and then the following week, we pretty much had a group of shipping engineers to go straight in. And those particular shipping engineers have been with us now for around 4 years. And it's almost like having a student-let model where they just pay the rent on time every month, and they've been pretty consistent. So that allows us to then move on to the next one. Yeah. Rather than filling one by one and doing all that sort of stuff, it made it easier for us to scale quicker by attracting the groups of working professionals that were already under one contract.
And do you deal with like, all types of sort of tenant profiles, like students, young professionals, contractors?
Yeah. Well, we tend to focus solely on professionals. Mainly, I'd say around 70% of our portfolio is contractors.
And they're like a bit more lower maintenance, say? Like
they're lower maintenance. I don't know what it is. We seem to get along with those types of guys. Often they're lads, they're chaps just like us. So there's a rapport you can build quite quickly. As I said, that going back to that original shipping company, we actually filled that first house for them, and they're actually based in Finland, but they work in Newport on the barges.
Right.
So we almost act as a relocation arm for them almost. And that first house that we built for the first house that we took on and gave to them, we done a good job there. And then their CEO is who I was dealing with direct. And he actually asked us to find 7 more rooms in Scotland, funnily enough, in Glasgow, because they've got another barge up there.
Yeah.
So at the time, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was winging it at the time, but I thought, well, maybe there's an opportunity here. So I remember phoning around all the estate agents in Glasgow.
You didn't phone me.
No, I might well. I phoned everyone. I must say I didn't get the best feedback from you guys up there.
We're a friendly bunch.
Well, I don't know whether it was my accent or maybe because I was asking for the HMO register, and it didn't really take to me very well.
Right.
It's not a big industry, in all fairness, in Scotland.
I didn't find the estate agents. They didn't really understand what I was asking for.
They wouldn't have understood it. Yeah.
This is 4 years ago, mine. So I know rent to rent's obviously come on since then, and then people.
Yeah, but even here, mate, it's not a big thing up here. Do you know what I mean? So most people were like, no, I don't know what you're talking about.
That is what happened. Until I bonded with one chap, I forget his name, Stephen, from I think it's Evans Properties. It was, and they had some nice new build flats, and I showed them to the contractors, and they really liked them. But it was impossible for me to do a rent to rent deal there just because of the logistics of it. I couldn't go up and furnish it and stuff.
Yeah,
it's too far from where I live. So I sort of placed them as like a relocation agent almost.
Okay.
And then charged a fee to the CEO of the company, which again I was winging it. I was making up the numbers as I go along. I think I charged him £200 a head. And we placed seven of their employees up there, and then sort of 6 months later, we ended up, those same engineers moved down to Newport. They needed more staff on the barges in Newport. So we took on another place and put them into another HMO in Newport. And then it just grew from there. So now we have around 25 to 30 of those employees spread over maybe 5 properties in South Wales.
That's good. So you've already got the customer kind of lined up, but you just find the property at the back end.
That seems to be what works for us. Yeah, I mean that it's a little bit different. I know most people do the individuals, but I found if you do something and it works, you may as well repeat it.
And to some extent, I suppose you're dealing with one customer. If you're directly to the CEO, you're dealing with him. So if one of the guys are a pain in the ass, then you can just go to the CEO and go, look, he's making the place on this pavement. Whereas if you've got to go to 25 or 26 individual people with them individually,
which can be quite tedious, right? But I have a good relationship with that CEO. He seems to value our service. I've looked up, like in the beginning, I looked up their company, and they're a big business in Finland. They're €1 million business. They do a lot of business, but I guess they see that whole accommodation side of things as something they'd rather outsource than do themselves.
Yeah, this is something for the listeners to take note, because I think there's real good opportunity here, targeting the contractors as well, because I used to do a bit of serviced accommodation, but it was mainly city centre, and it would attract people just visiting the city for weekends or holidays, like tourists and stuff like that.
Sure.
That type of business is really, really hard work. It's so demanding, because people are in for short times. They're so demanding. You're like a hotel concierge. I've said it before, but with the contractors, generally they're in they go out to work. They're out all day. They just want to come in, chill, watch a bit of telly, cook a bit of dinner and all that. So I think, for the people we don't do too much HMO up here, but for the people who are thinking maybe that rent to rent, certainly maybe rent out a house or something like that and get contractors in it. I think that could be a real good strategy.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, quite often I mean, we've been fortunate with those chaps. They've been with us for 4 years now, and they're showing no signs of leaving that area. They need that accommodation. I think it's location as well, because it's walking distance from the barges that they work on, and they're all quite eco-friendly. They don't drive, they ride their bikes. So they like to be able to just get up, go straight to work, and then make it back within 5 minutes back to their house. And like you said, have a bit of dinner and chill out, you know?
Yeah.
It's nice. You seem to have kind of like simplified that. Like a lot of people try and overcomplicate operating on a strategy. You seem to just kind of simplify that. Go for, they're there, they're looking for accommodation, and they're there for long term. That's easy to deal with.
My fear was, when I started in rent to rent, was, that awful moment when you take a place on and then you sort of get the keys and you look around and like you haven't got any tenants, and you've got to make this guaranteed rent payment every month, and you've got to pay the bills, and all of a sudden you're thinking, well, hold on a minute, I've got to get some customers in here.
There's a risk factor there. You've got the liability to start with.
So I was very conscious of, that was all I had in the beginning, so it wasn't a case of hopefully this works. It was, I'm going to make this work. So I purposely went and sort of found these contractors, and I would go and drive around and give out leaflets in the beginning. I'd go to local hotels where I'd see like high-vis guys in the car park clocking off, having a smoke in the car park, and I'd go and give them my leaflets and say, look, we've got accommodation down the road, all-inclusive bills, and just offer my services to as many different people as possible, And I feel that started to come back round to us as time went on.
And are you doing everything yourself at the moment? Have you got other people helping you out? How's it looking?
So in the beginning, I was doing everything myself. Really, that was a very stressful time. Year 1 and 2 was very stressful. Didn't really have much time for anything else. I was driving down there most weekends and taking a new place on, cleaning it myself. My dad would be local, so he'd come and help out, and he's been really helpful with the maintenance and things like that. He's a bit of a handyman, but he's not necessarily skilled as a tradesman. But it was helpful to have him there so that I could get him to do my viewings and, just little things, helping me put the beds together and chest of drawers, things like that. But now, as the business has grown, we've got a couple staff members. So we've got 2 sort of housekeepers that we use that go and do like the bedding and the cleaning and stuff for the more service accommodation stuff. The longer term tenants don't tend to really want cleaning that much. I buy them all the hoovers and stuff that they need, and they tend to look after themselves. So yeah, we have 2 housekeepers. One of them basically acts as an MD in terms of what they're doing, because they're doing a few more tasks than just housekeeping. But yeah, very sort of lean, small business. I was always very aware of, I didn't want to scale up too quick. I think that was a mistake that I started to make in the beginning, where I was just trying to take as many on as possible and invest in the profits, when in actual fact,
have a headache rather than ease.
Yeah. As I said, we went above the 20 mark at one point, and some of those deals weren't really sustainable in terms of the landlord and the numbers. I was quite naive in the beginning with my number crunching. Didn't leave much margin for error, So it's as time's gone on, we've got some employees that are more on a part-time basis, and it's allowed us to scale and get me off of the tools, so to speak, and allow me to do more things like this, like marketing and pushing my business out there. And
where are you trying to push it to then? What's the kind of direction for you?
I don't know, I'm just trying to push it. I mean, I guess since being on social media, I've had good feedback from people, and it seems to be that my followers are more people who are starting out, mainly people that might have seen property as something they could never really get into because of the barrier to entry. So I guess the latest part of the business, which we'll go on to, I'm sure, which is more of the education side. I actually teach people how to do rent to rent now. So we've got like a 6-step sort of modules that we do, like a presentation, and I actually coach them through on the course as well. So that's been quite interesting recently. That's when I've been mainly focused over the last sort of 3 or 4 months, just building that side of things, really.
Tell us then, like, about getting started then, sorry, because like obviously it sounds good and I know it works because I see other people doing it, but a lot of people just won't do it or can't do it. you know, like, because they don't have the balls to pick up the phone and start calling around agents and landlords and all that. So what's the best things that you've found that works?
Well, I just think it's building relationships, isn't it? You know, like, I know a lot of people do say that, but it's so true. Like, in the beginning, I was getting told no so many times. You know, it was almost getting embarrassing at one stage. But it didn't deter me. I kept sort of turning up. I'd go into the estate agents and sit with them, you know, and because quite often they get a lot of phone calls from people offering similar services. So it's about, how are you going to separate yourself? How are you going to show that your integrity? How are you going to build that trust? And I find that, yes, internet can be brilliant for marketing, and you can phone someone, you can drop messages online, Rightmove or whatever, but there's still something to be said for actually a personal sort of going in and having a chat with someone and being transparent, and, you know, communicating your message and what it is that you want from the estate agents. Obviously, ideally, you'd want to go direct to landlords, which we do as well through like direct marketing campaigns. We send quite a lot of letters out. So that's been quite good for us. But in terms of getting started through estate agents, you just have to build the relationships, and you have to create a win-win in business, don't you? Where they need to understand how.
And how do you deal with those rejections then, those no's? Because I know that, like, sometimes I can like bite if somebody's rude to me. Like, do you know what I mean? I can, like, depending on what mood I'm in. So like, you know, you do get a lot of no's in business in general, don't you?
I've bitten a few times, but as time's gone on, I'm a lot more chilled out about it now, and I understand that, you know, they get a lot of phone calls from different people. So, you know, you have to prove that you are not the same as everyone else, and that you are actually here for the long term. That's what I mean about going into the estate agents maybe once a month, sitting with them, telling them what you need, telling them, communicating your message clearly. You got to remember that they still get quite a lot of HMO landlords will go into an estate agent by default, just because they're on the high street and that's what they're used to. But sometimes HMOs are poorly managed, poorly maintained, they're not in very good condition, and the estate agent isn't really equipped to necessarily manage those properties. They kind of want to do basic vanilla single lets, tenant fines and management. They don't really want to take on the HMOs because there's a lot more moving parts, in my experience anyway. Another thing with estate agents is they're not often on the platforms that you need to be on, like the online platforms, the spare rooms, the open rents, you know, where you've got to hustle a little bit. Quite a lot of estate agents aren't sort of built like that. That isn't their business model. A lot of HMO viewings can happen sort of after work hours, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. Quite often the estate agents are clocked off by then. So I think you can help the estate agent also. And we do an introduction only fee where we'll pay the estate agent, and then the landlord will pay the estate agent as well. So it's like they get paid twice. So they get paid by the landlord for doing a tenant find, the tenant find being our company. And we'll also pay, you know, a fee as well, a small fee as well, just for goodwill basically. And then that sort of introduces us to the landlord, and the estate agent can step away.
So basically it's a win-win for everybody. So because
win-win, yeah. I mean, quite often these HMOs that aren't in good condition, they sit on the market for a little while, you know, like it can be a bit of a nightmare for an estate agent going to do the viewings. And if they're not in good condition and the landlord doesn't really want to spend any money on them in terms of getting them up to standard, you know, then that can be a bit of a waste of time for the estate agent in terms of marketing, sending their employees out to do the viewings. Or they could just call Luke, and Luke will take it on. He might put a couple grand into it and make it look a bit fresher. And then for that, I'll rent those rooms out for a premium, and that's how we make our margin, you know. So it can work, you know. You can sit in between and work with the estate agent as like a sandwich as well, if they don't want to relinquish the management and they want to continue managing the property. You can work together as well. We've got a few that we still have through estate agents, but most of the properties now are direct to landlord, just because it's easier and you can provide a better service.
No, it sounds good. It sounds like a good business model, and like you say, a low entry point to get into it as well. I'm kind of keen to hear more about your journey into the building your own buy-to-let portfolio as well then. So it's obviously that's gave you the entry point to get the experience, get the connections, get the relationships going to
Yeah,
go on with
exactly. I mean, so from sort of the 2-year mark, as I said, we were doing okay, and we had some profits there. So it was a case of, well, what do we do with this money? Because as you know, money's a tool. It's not something to be spent on fast cars and nice watches. You need to put it back to work, don't you? So that's where we started to look at houses in the valleys. So our demographic, our sort of price range in the valleys is between 50 and 80 grand. 50 grand being a cash purchase or bridging. And then we'll refurb that property, spend around 20 grand doing it up. So we're 70 grand all in. And then quite often we'll get a revaluation of around 90 grand at the back end, which then allows us to pull out £67,500 from the mortgage.
How are you finding that market? Is it, I mean, up here in Glasgow, it's very difficult to find these deals. Is it getting harder and tougher down there as well?
Oh, yeah, of course, it is difficult. You know, a lot of people make out like those deals are everywhere, and they're really not. You know, like when you're going to view these places, there's 10 people queuing up outside ready to come straight in. It's still like that. It's been like that the whole way through COVID. But I guess, you know, going back to the relationships and actually going and viewing these places yourself, and then speaking to different landlords on the same street, you can get yourself ahead. You know, again, we do a lot of marketing, sort of leafleting and word of mouth stuff, referrals, that sort of stuff. So there are ways to find those deals, but I think the all money out deal is a little bit difficult to find nowadays.
Do you find social media helps for getting deals or
building? Yeah. Funnily enough, you say that, because we actually, the most recent place we've agreed on is a 50 grand house, but we found that on Facebook. That was from a landlady who was just selling on their direct, you know.
We touched on that before there. Facebook still has its place, doesn't it?
Yeah, Facebook still has its place. I mean, I think the age group on there is more a little bit older.
Yeah.
But quite often those people will be landlords, won't they?
Yeah.
And they tend to go on there and have a little bit of a moan and vent about things. And quite often you can go in those little community groups and offer your services, and you can get the landlord's number direct from there, you know?
Yeah. While we're on the subject of social media, mate, I want to talk to you as a fellow TikToker. Stephen's not up to his game yet on the TikTok, but like we're on it, mate. We're on it. So like, what's up with all the landlord hate and abuse, man? Do you get any of this stuff? Because
I get a lot of stuff. I get a lot of messages on TikTok from people sort of implying that we're taking the properties in Wales from the people who deserve them the most and things like this. And in the beginning, I used to sort of look at those comments, but now I just see them as a cost of growing, basically. So the more you're being seen, the more inevitably you're going to get some negative hate, you know? That's just the nature of it.
I've been called a leech, a parasite. Parasite is quite a good one, because they've got a little emoji that they can use.
Yeah, like
a disease, you know, you're a disease.
You've got to be thick-skinned, haven't you, Nick? You know, you've got to be thick-skinned, and you've got to understand the type of person that's probably writing that is under their covers in their mum's basement. You know?
I wait to say you're getting offended by the 14-year-old Nick calling you a parasite.
Yeah, I mean, sticks and stones, isn't it? You know.
Yeah.
The positive people far outweigh the negative people, and it's just if you have a video that goes quite viral and you get a lot of views, then you are going to get inevitably some idiots saying some things to you. But
one thing that I've noticed that's like crazy, because like usually, because I'm a letting agent as well, right? So I'll post like you know, like the kind of real type style where you do little clips with the music. Now, traditionally, posting a property to let, you know, like here's a 2-bedroom flat to rent in Glasgow, £600 a month. If I posted that on like Instagram or something like that, you know, I'd get like 2 likes or something like that. On TikTok, I can get 40 to 50,000 views on that. It's mental.
Yeah, that's why I say it's a great place to market at the moment. As I said in the beginning, I think that they push raw, unedited content far more than Instagram do. Instagram want things to be, you know, all in line, and remember it started as a photography app.
Yeah,
it's very, you know, it needs to look good and aesthetically
polished.
TikTok is just a few little videos. You chop them up, put them together, and put a good clickbaity sort of title in the cover, and people click on it, and out of that you get customers, you know.
Mate, you're doing well on it. I like your channel.
Talking about the hate, I mean, you still get that same hatred from professional platforms like LinkedIn. It's even fucking more so as well, which is funny.
Yeah. I mean, it's just part of the game, isn't it? Like, I've had so much rejection in my life from, you know, previous stuff with football, and I've had so many trials at different clubs, and I've been told no, and you're not good enough.
I think that's helped you in your property business.
Yeah, definitely has. I didn't see it at the time.
Yeah.
Right? So sort of going back to mid-20s, I was a bit sort of almost depressed, you know, from not making that initial benchmark that I thought I was good enough to do.
I suppose if that was your dream since you were a child to play professional football,
yeah,
you're going to reach that, you know, that it sounds fucking ridiculous when you say like, you know, early mid-20s when you can't make it a career, but realistically that's when you're not going to make it as a professional sports person. So that must be quite hard to go, that's all I've ever wanted to, now what I do with the rest of my life.
Yeah, it was difficult, and as I said, I had a few years of sort of moping around or sort of figuring out what I needed to do next, you know. And I needed a vehicle that could take me to those ambitious places I still wanted to get to.
Yeah,
I knew it wasn't going to come from a job.
I find your whole the marketing thing fascinating. And I think any young people who are listening to this who want to actually, you know, get away from just the job or to try and create something for themselves. And like you say at the start, it's not for everybody, but you know, if you want to be in charge of your own life and do that entrepreneur thing, start your own business, then just have a look at Luke's, you know, TikTok, because the thing I like about it as well is you're literally standing there in the street with like a pair of shorts on, a baseball cap. You're not trying to impress anybody.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's you.
Yeah, I'm trying to be myself. I mean, I figured that out a little while ago, that like the best way you can come across is just to be yourself. You know, there's a lot of people on the internet trying to be something that they're not. And I think, you know, maybe you can do that for a little while, but at some point you will get found out, you know, and it's
you're not going to be able to keep that up, and it's going to be more difficult to keep that up rather than just put out your natural self.
Exactly, and people don't really relate to that. You know, sometimes people can see through it. I think you need to just be genuinely yourself. And in the beginning, I was struggling with, how am I going to come across? But then, like you said, I'll just throw on a cap and put on a hoodie and go and point in front of one of the houses that we just bought. It's no big deal to me, you know?
Yeah, my wife talks to me about this quite a lot. You know, she's like, what are you putting on there? Like, you need to smarten yourself up. You need to, like, you know, look like a letting agent, like get a suit on and all that. She doesn't go that far, but I mean,
if you want that corporate looking buttoned up tie neck.
I mean, it kind of goes against everything that I'm sort of trying to do, you know, like going back to that sort of rebellious character that I have. You know, it's cost me in the past, I guess. You know, I didn't finish school. I was expelled from school in like year 9, you know, like not necessarily because I was very naughty. I just couldn't really concentrate that much in school. And something didn't sit well with me, like the dictatorship of it, you know, having to put your hand up to go and use the toilet, and, you know, getting told break time and you have to come in, and all this sort of rules. It never really, for someone like me, it didn't really sit well with me.
I'm sure we can relate to that as well, yeah.
And it's about, and the bottom line is, it doesn't matter how you look, it's about the service that you're offering your clients at the bottom line. And if you're providing a good service, like one of my landlords contacted me last night to get something that they were needing for their mortgage lending purposes. It was like a deposit scheme registration or something like that. I sent that to him on WhatsApp at 10 o'clock last night. Do you know what I mean? He had it, you know, there. So who cares if you wear a suit or not? I've not had a shave today.
Who cares? Who cares? I think, like you said, it's more about the service that you're providing. And when you do sort of go out on your own and build your own business, you know, we're not trying to be massively big. I don't know about yourself, your sort of ambition, but you know, you want to be a decent sized business, but you're always going to be able to provide a better service when you're smaller, in terms of like the big estate agents that have 200 properties. You know, their quality of service gets compromised sometimes because of the amount of properties that they're trying to manage, you know.
And a lower kind of entry level employee that's on that, you know, not a great wage, I'm not going to take your property that seriously if they're managing. They're not going to put their blood, sweat, and tears in it. Whereas like Nick saying, replying to a landlord for a mortgage application 10 o'clock at night, he understands the importance of that and he appreciates his business, so he's going to go over and above and beyond that call of duty to make sure you do it.
If they're working with a traditional, letting agent, then they have to wait till the next day, maybe lunchtime, maybe afternoon for that, working round the clock and having WhatsApp and having your landlords, on your phone where you can speak to them direct. I just think it's a better way of doing things, and going forward into the future, I think that will be the new sort of way.
Yeah, I think COVID's definitely shaken up the whole the world in general, like the bit of flexibility of working from home, and people realise that you can actually just work from home and have the kids there, or go and put a washing on, or go for a walk.
One of these, you're good.
Have you got any kind of like tips or strategies, or routines that you help that help you in business be organized, structured, like be successful, that sort of thing? Was there anything that's really helped you?
Yeah, I would say not trying to do everything myself has helped me a lot. I'm fortunate enough to have a missus there that's helped me a lot in terms of organization. I think that when you're quite entrepreneurial based or a bit creative minded, quite often it's hard to concentrate. I'm always looking at different things. I love to build businesses, and I have to be reeled back a little bit sometimes, because I'm always trying to think about the next thing. Whereas you actually need to have management and operations as well within your business. I think that's a lesson that I learned sort of the hard way initially. I was blazing this trail, and then fortunately enough, actually, because of COVID, my missus got made redundant from her advertising job. So she was at home a lot more, which allowed me to say, can you help me out with this? And she does a lot more of the admin based stuff now. Help with my routine and stuff. Because if it was all down to me, I'd still be taking places on in Wales, and I probably would have started 4 more businesses by now. Yeah.
It's funny because I see a lot of similarities there as well. Because my missus now works in the business, and she's the really organised one. And on top of it, it comes up with all the new procedures and that. She's like, why are we not doing it this way? You're doing it all the wrong way.
It's definitely a game changer. I think sometimes, especially as men, we can be like, right, we're doing everything, take all the jobs on, take all the responsibility on. And I think that's great, but there comes a point where you need that operations and management, rather than sort of growing sort of like this fast pace. You kind of want to be held back a little bit.
Yeah.
And you go forward like that rather than just bulleting forward,
Yeah, no, definitely put procedures and processes in place to make sure you can manage it right, grow at a sensible rate. I definitely, I think we can all relate to that.
yeah, it can be tricky, right? It's a balance.
And I suppose it's a balance for your partner as well, to allow you that bit of creativity to kind of push forward and do what you do best as well. That allows you to grow business.
Definitely, because I think in the beginning I thought I could do everything, and to a certain extent I could, but there's no way I'm going to be able to make a bed or do furnish a property better than someone who's actually got skills in that. It comes a point where you need to focus on what you're good at.
Yeah, or what you enjoy.
Or what you enjoy, because if you enjoy it, you're going to do it with passion, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I've kind of discovered this as well, like the last year as well, by taking an employee, first full-time employee. You start to realise, like, I'm doing this. You create your business because of what the flexibility, the freedom it gives you, but you don't want to be doing the fucking shitty tasks I don't want to do. If that's the case, I'll just employ somebody to do that now. Whereas before, I never saw that. I just thought that I'm going to have to sit till 2 o'clock in the morning, take care of my bookkeeping or my admin tasks. It's like, no, don't create that other job. You want a business that works for you.
It can hold you back. It's we've only got a limited amount of time each day, haven't we? So it's definitely best to spend that on. For me at the moment, it's marketing, it's getting new customers, so sales and growth basically is where I'm at the moment.
Yeah.
Is there anybody that you like listening to, like online or on social media or anything like that you kind of take inspiration from?
I listen to quite a lot of the American dudes I listen to. I know they can be quite extroverted, but often they are quite
which ones?
I listen to I like Grant Cardone stuff. I like him.
Do you like that way Brad Lee dropping bombs? I listen to that podcast.
I like him. Yeah, Brad Lee's good. I like, is it the PBD podcast as well? There's a few that I listen to from over there. London based or England based. I like who do I like over here? I like some of Rob Moore's stuff. I think he's good. Mixed reviews on him, but it is what it is.
No, I think he's decent. I just find the Americans, they give you a bit more of a, like, they give you a bit more energy, I find, you know, when you listen to them.
They're more extroverted by nature, aren't they? I think in Britain, we're a bit like reserved and like, you know, we don't want to say too much or offend anyone. Whereas, you know, over there, it's just everything outwards, you know?
Yeah.
There's a good couple of podcasts that I start listening to as well. The Diary of a CEO.
Oh, yeah.
He's Stephen Bartlett. He's good. Yeah, I'm liking that.
Yeah.
You find all that stuff helps your growth and your mindset going forward, and
definitely. I mean, in the beginning, that's all I really did. You know, YouTube, podcasts. I've read a few books, but mainly the best way for me to get or digest that information was audio. Whether I'd be out for a walk or at the gym or whatever, I'd always listen to people who are doing what you want to be doing, or people that are ahead of you, you know?
Yeah, I always find it important to kind of listen to the people that are just that little bit ahead of you. I feel like if you know, the people listen to mentors that are, you know, done it 10, 15, 20 years ago, it's just irrelevant now because the pace of the industry and the pace of the world changes so much that they've not just done it, the kind of their information and their values not really there what it should be.
Yeah, exactly. And I think being open to learning often.
Yeah.
Like, you can never stop learning. I think that's a mistake that some people make when they get to a certain stage. They maybe their ego can take over.
Yeah, think they know all and stop.
Yeah, I think that's something that definitely helps me on the journey, is sort of destroying that ego almost.
Yeah.
What? Here's a question for you, right? And I've heard it asked on other business podcasts, and I always find it quite interesting. Like, what does success mean to you? Because we're talking about, you know, building a business and all this. So we're not trying to be like big, like, you know, like Steve Jobs or like, you know, Bezos.
Maybe that might happen for one of us. Who knows? But
you know what I mean? Well, I don't know. This is why I'm asking, because for me, like, success is like what I talked about earlier, like being able to take a day off during the week and go snowboarding when everybody else is working. Like to go to the gym during the week, during the day, when you're not having to fight for all the cross training machines and all the rest of it. Like, do you know what I mean? What are the little things that can make you think, I'm doing all right here, I'm quite happy?
That's a great question. Success means to me similar to what it means to you, in the sense of freedom. Freedom is something that's always been very important to me, to my detriment at times. You know, at times I've probably answered back at times in football in the change rooms when maybe that wasn't the right thing to do. I don't know. In hindsight, you know, it's worked out okay, but having the freedom to do what I choose, to plan my own weeks, to see my family, to spend time with my loved ones, and just to do things on my own terms, really. I don't know whether it's like some sort of, it's just something I've always had in my head of just, I want to do it my way, you know? So success means to me making enough money that your bills are paid and you still have enough to, if you want to go on holiday, you can go on holiday. If you want to give money, you can give money. And just having no ceiling of where you can get to. I think that's something that's really important to me. That's success to me, being able to look forward and not really see any cap on where you can get to.
Yeah.
I think in a job, you know, you might be able to get a promotion or maybe a 2-3% raise. But if you consider inflation, you know, that isn't really a raise. Kind of
that's interesting. I heard somebody the other day talking about it, and they were talking, you know, people get into the corporate ladder and they keep climbing it and climbing it and climbing it, you know, and they get to a certain level, you know, they think that they're going to get to a certain level where they're going to have such a high income that they're going to be happy. And then they get to that level where they're earning like, I don't know, 150 grand a year or whatever it is, and they're still not happy and they're stressed out and they want to leave their jobs. Do you know what I mean?
It's because of the time, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, quite often they'll be making that money, but they'll also have someone cracking the whip on them.
Huge responsibility that goes with that. Yeah.
And, you know, we're on borrowed time as it is, you know, and if you want to be able to go and see your nan or your mum or your dad, whatever, you know, you should be able to do these things. If you want to go to the gym in the daytime and get on the machines before it's busy, you should be able to do these things, you know. If you want to look after yourself, you should be able to do that. And I find that with a 9 to 5, we only have a limited amount of energy. So you're coming home, quite a lot of the people that I mentor that are on the course, you know, they're coming home at 5, 6 o'clock. Their energy is already, they're tired, you know, and they now have to build something up, and it's going to take a lot of energy and resilience to get them going. But if they're willing to do that, on the other side of that hard work, is that freedom that
that reward.
No, it's definitely interesting. I mean, it's like, obviously there's a price to pay as well, because like yesterday I went to the gym during the day and did like, a couple hours or whatever, but then I was up till 2 a.m. last night, catching up on the stuff that I missed. But that's just the life, man.
That's the life. You can do that because you haven't necessarily got to get up at 5 o'clock, alarm going off, wiping the sleep out of your eye and rushing into the shower and doing the commute and all that stuff is just, for me, it's not beneficial to me. I don't really feel like it's moving the bar forward.
It doesn't feel like life to me. It feels like an existence. Like we're not here just to exist.
And I want it to be clear. I don't want people to think that we're sort of saying or belittling jobs, because there's a place for everything, right? And you have to take stepping stones. I think it's more about your happiness. If you put your happiness as your priority, then inevitably you will want to make more time for yourself and have more freedom,
Yeah, and like you say, just to be clear, we're not belittling that. I mean, I know me personally, I could even make it into the corporate world anyway. I never even went to university, so I'm not that smart. Do you know what I mean? So...
Yeah, I mean, that's what they say about property, isn't it? It's the great equalizer. You don't have to be academically smart to be able to get into property and figure some stuff out.
Yeah.
And that's why I love it so much, because I didn't finish school. I wouldn't say I'm academically smart. I haven't got any GCSEs. I think I've got one English GCSE that I got from a home tutor when I had been expelled. So, I mean, I haven't got loads of academic stuff. And I think that's a strong message to get across, is that you don't necessarily need all that sort of stuff.
No.
To succeed, as long as you've got like determination, resilience, these types of qualities you can build. And you don't have to go to school or university to build these qualities. You can build them in yourself as time goes on.
Absolutely. What are you thinking the future looks like for you then? What's the big plan? Where do you think the business is going to go, and what's it like?
The business is I say going forward now, we're in, so year 5 now is started. This is the 5th year we've been incorporated from February 2018. So now it's more of the same, really. Continuing to build the portfolio up, maybe looking at some bigger stuff as well, and sort of trying to teach within my family as well. I think that's quite important. I think I don't come from a family that have been flush with money, like I come from a sort of single parent household, never really had much. Mum's, worked numerous jobs, 4 kids. They don't really understand financial literacy. So for me, it's about sort of teaching them what I know, and then having the ripple effect of the community that I'm building as well with the education side. And just being better, trying to improve that 1%, every day if possible, continuing to buy. I don't know if I'd start another business just yet. I mean, that was pretty stressful the first 2 years, but the education side and the sourcing side have acted as another sort of arm to the business. And mentoring can be quite rewarding as well, in terms of like helping people and taking on new challenges and stuff. So the future just looks like more of the same, really. Continuing to buy property, continuing to build my own portfolio, whilst also building other people's portfolios as well.
Yeah, no, that sounds good, mate. Like the more people you help.
It's good. I really enjoyed the chat, mate. I see quite a lot of similarities, so it's like really interesting. Where's best social media platform for people to?
Well, I mean, you said it. TikTok, we're busy on there, but Instagram, our handle is @Luke's Properties. We'll be on YouTube as well soon. We've got some cool stuff coming up there. We've got some refurbs that we'll be doing. I'm also going to document one of my rent-to-rent mentees has taken on like a big sort of block of flats in Liverpool that's doing really well. So I'm going to go and start documenting those for like testimonials and stuff.
Excellent. That's what it's getting seen, actually physically seen. That's what I love about, Insta, YouTube, the stories and that. Seeing that people are actually doing it and seeing the results, that's the cool thing.
Yeah, definitely. So @Luke's Properties, Instagram, TikTok. And we've got a podcast as well, Catch Up with Luke. It's on Spotify.
Right, okay, cool. Look out for that.
Yeah,
So, mate, we'll link this all that in the show notes as well.
yeah. No,
And I'll catch you for a TikTok duet sometime soon,
oh
mate.
yeah, definitely, guys. And like, I'd happily, maybe we can do stuff in the future. We can go live and have a chat and get some interaction from the followers and stuff.
Absolutely, mate. Collaboration, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Great idea, mate. Appreciate you coming on. Thanks a lot for that, Luke.
You guys, thanks for having me.
Brilliant. Take care, man.
Take care, dude. Bye.
So I hope you enjoyed that interview, guys, with Luke from Luke's Properties. I know we certainly did. It was a really, really good chat. Guys, if you want to touch base with us or meet us in person, please come along to the in-person networking events, 2nd of March in Dundee, Edinburgh, Aberdeen, and the sold-out Glasgow event.
If this podcast comes out after the 2nd of March, then it's every first Wednesday of the month. So yeah, as Stephen says, we're having some really good feedback from this. And I think it's just that people are actually, making connections, doing deals. I heard somebody getting a deal from our Glasgow event. What a couple of the attendees teamed together. One of them had a deal, the other one was looking for a deal, and a deal was done. So yeah, things are happening at these things. It's
really cool. I saw the same stuff in Aberdeen last month. I'm going to attend Dundee this month with Paul Cummings and Kissa Salimi as well. They've got a great guest speaker on there. So yeah, really looking forward to it.
Excellent, guys. So get on your Eventbrite and book your ticket. It's only £20. We'll be looking forward to catching you soon.
Cheers, guys.